Shall we start?
Yes, please. Arif.
Yes, sir. A very good afternoon and warm welcome to one and all present in this one-day workshop on future of engineering education in the light of new education policy 2020. We appreciate your participation amidst all the gloomy time around us because of a tiny submicroscopic infectious agent, and also your humongous amount of digital engagement during the present time. I would like to extend heartfelt gratitude to Honorable Director NIT-IIC-Future, Professor Shubhashish Bandyopadhyay, Honorable Director IIT Bombay, Professor Subhashish Choudhury, Honorable Chairman AICTE, Professor Anil Sahasrabudhe, Director Motilal Nehru National Institute of Technology, Allahabad, Professor Rajiv Tripathi, other distinguished faculty members from various institutes, research scholars, and other participants. Take the pleasure to start this event with a quote from one of the greatest philosophers of our nation, Swami Vivekananda. And I quote, "Education is not the amount of information that we put into our brain and runs riot there, undigested all our life. We must have life building, man making, character making, assimilation of ideas. If you have assimilated 5 ideas and made them your life and character, you have more education than any man who has got by heart a whole library. If education is identical with..."
Yeah, Arif, we have gone.
Sir.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
So I will start by quoting Swami Vivekananda's notion. He was referring to education is not the amount of information that we put into our brain and runs riot there, undigested all your life. If you have assimilated 5 ideas and made them your life and character, you have more education than any man who has got by heart a whole library. If education is identical with information, the libraries are the greatest sages of the world and encyclopedias are the greatest rishis. The National Education Policy 2020 envisions an India-centered education system that contributes directly to transforming our nation sustainably into an equitable and vibrant knowledge society by providing high-quality education to all. The vision of India's new education system is crafted to ensure that it touches the life of each and every citizen, consistent with their capability to contribute in many growing developmental imperatives of the country. The National Education Policy 2020 is a comprehensive framework to guide the development of education in the country. It is the third in its class, the first being crafted in 1968, the second in 1986, which was revised in 1992, and were named as National Policy of Education. The NEP 2020 is the latest version of education policy, which is framed envisioning to reassure and reboot the Indian education system and meet the futuristic aspiration. We are now at an important juncture where we are dealing with a lot of queries regarding effective implementation of the policy. Specifically in engineering education, as most of us in this group are associated to engineering education and research. We need to understand the ethos of NEP 2020, and today we all are enthusiastically waiting to hear from some of the most genius and prominent academicians in the country who have established themselves in administrating higher education sector with their wisdom and profound knowledge. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm extremely delighted to invite Professor Shubhashish Bandyopadhyay, Director NIT-IIC-Future, for his welcome address.
Yeah. Good afternoon. The Professor A.D. Sahasrabudhe, Chairman AICTE, Professor Tripathi, Director MNIT Allahabad, Professor Subhashish Choudhury, Director IIT Bombay, who will be joining us later, my colleagues at NIT-IIC-Future and at other institutes, the presidents and other participants. So as you all know, or what Dr. has already pointed out, that today's discussions are basically uh, engineering education vis-a-vis the National Education Policy 2020. All of us know that education is the backbone of a country, and education not only means in terms of the degrees or the diplomas or the certificates, but also in terms of the knowledge and its applications for the society. In light of this one, obviously the National Education Policy 2020 that has attempted an holistic view and of the whole thing, and it is good that after a long gap we have a comprehensive policy, and the various avenues, that is our invited speakers, they will be deliberating on that part also. But from the institute side, from NIT-Silchar side, I think when you look at the plans, that is how we want to implement, or how we are already in the path of implementation of the various facets of national education policy in the technology, that is higher education in the technology domain. So one first objective that we have identified is that it has to be a research intensive institute. The second point that we thrust on, the 4 years multidisciplinary bachelor's program with chosen major and the minor, because so far you are talking about interdisciplinary education and research, and generally for PhD and the master's program we talk about interdisciplinary. The bachelor's program, so to say, are generally say named by the degree, say belongs to CSE or electrical, ECE, etc. But the bachelor's program over the years, that has already grown into a multidisciplinary area. So the division of major and along with that a minor, and what we call open electives at NIT-Silchar. So that is already on the run, but obviously we need to consolidate that part. The third important aspect that you look into are basically the societal responsibilities, both academic as well as community based. And as a National Institute of Technology, taking care of the societal responsibilities, what we were already taking and what we need to take a comprehensive view towards that success. Then introduction of open distance learning program, that is say another aspect of the education policy, because say coming to the classroom might not be possible for every class of learners, every type of learners. So we need to have distance learning programs, and as an institute, obviously we need to take steps in that direction. Then towards a more holistic and multidisciplinary education, promotion of Indian languages. And at NIT-Silchar, we look at it at the say the research in the Indian languages. That is what we call as natural language processing. And so for the major languages, scheduled languages of India, as well as for the say the tribal languages, say some of which are say distinct. Then use of technology and its integration into the education system. Then internationalization, because when we look into the education system, say while we will be focusing on the Indian values and ethos, but at the same time we need to expand ourselves, so that say whatever we need to learn from others, we will have to do that. Whatever others will have to learn from us, we'll have to open our heart to share that. Then students and the faculties, they are the two important backbones of an education system. So the current education policy has laid adequate emphasis on the student activity participation, and then with respect to the faculties, so the faculties need to be motivated, energized, and capable faculty, so that the overall education system goes to the next level. Then flexibility is necessary. We might have different rules, regulations, statutes, etc. But when you take an open view, so both at the say at the UG, PG, and the PhD level, we need a greater kind of flexibility. Then design of IT-based classrooms and laboratories. And obviously, say because of the divide in terms of the finance, we can say, so we need finance support for the students as well, so that our objective should be no one should be left behind and everyone should be getting the kind of education that they basically need in order to sustain themselves, in order to contribute to the society, to the country, and finally to the globe as well. And obviously, one part that I have not mentioned so far is our contribution to the environment. So our education will not only be learning the environment and how to maintain it, but sustainability is basically the key for today's educational system. And every educational institution need to be sustainable in terms of environment, because every development has its effect on the environment. And so the students or the faculties, the research scholars who work in an educational institution, they must be updated in such a manner so that they can contribute to the sustainability of the environment of the country as well as of the globe. With this, now I hand it over to Dr. Arif for our speakers to discuss their views. Arif.
Thank you very much, sir, for such a brilliant and meaningful address and setting up the stage very precisely. We all acknowledge your constant guidance and support in organizing such events, which actually broadens our knowledge, and we are able to create peer networks. Listening to you is always a treat, and thank you very much, sir. Extremely pleased. Before we go to the keynote speakers, I shall be inviting our President of Institute Innovation Council and Professor of Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, Professor Fajal Ahmed Talukdar, for briefing about the workshop through his welcome address.
A very good evening to everyone. Sir Anildi Shasrabuddhe, respected Chairperson, All India Council for Technical Education. Professor Subhashish Chaudhary in absentia, who will be joining that means shortly, the Director that means IIT Bombay. Professor Rajiv Tripathi, Director, Motilal Nehru National Institute of Technology, Prayagraj, and our that means a very own Director that means Professor Shivaji Bandopadhyay. The head of the departments, my distinguished colleagues, the student friends, research scholars, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to the webinar on future of that means engineering education in the light of that means NEP 2020. Exactly 36 days back, we are having a council meeting of the Institution's Innovation Council, where that means we thought of organizing a webinar on national education policy. And the idea came that in the light of that means many of the things that means which are proposed and likely to be that means implemented in the new education policy. And the fact remains that most of the professional education in the country developed that means in silos. What will be its future the moment the national education policy will be implemented? Just a week ago, our Honorable that means Minister of Education has also that means emphasized the need to have that means engineering and professional education in that means Indian languages. All these things are that means going to cause a tremendous disruption in the mind of that means everyone who are associated with the engineering education. And in the meeting itself, that means we thought of inviting none other than the guidance of that means Professor Shasrabuddhe to speak and share that means how the implementation of national education policy is going to that means impact the traditional that means engineering education. And along with that means we have the director of that means IIT Bombay, who can that means speak what kind of that means changes or what kind of that means things are going to that means shape up while that means implementing the national education policy, as well as our very that means own director and Professor Tripathi will that means discuss the various aspects of implementation at NIT levels. One thing that we need to consider is that there was a broad gap of 35 years between the education policy of 1985 and that of the 2020. The 2020 policy is facing that means the more challenges for the reason that in between the internet that means that came into being, and it disrupted the way that means that we learn, or the way that means that we do the things. So hopefully that means that in next 3 hours we will be that means able to learn that means something so beautiful and so that means applicable. Professor Sahasrabuddhe, Professor Tripathi, as well as Professor Chaudhary and Professor Bandyopadhyay will that means share with us. We in the technical ecosystem, we expect that we will be that means greatly benefited from their that means the deliberation. So on behalf of the institution's Innovation Council of the Institute, I welcome that means the Professor Sahasrabuddhe, Professor Tripathi, as well as that means the Professor Chaudhary, all my that means the distinguished deans, head of the departments and colleagues that means in the webinar, and hope that you will actively participate and try to that means clear the doubt which is there in your mind when that means 6 months time a new education policy will be that is implemented in a full throttle. So I just that is again welcome that is Professor Sahasrabuddhe and Professor Tripathi that is virtually in our campus, and hopefully that is when things normalizes. On behalf of that is ICC, I also that is extending invitation to them to visit our that is campus. Thank you all. Over to Dr. Arif.
Thank you very much, sir, for deliberating expressive address and activate us with some positive state of mind. Thank you for your constant support and encouragement. I'm extremely happy and privileged to introduce to all of you Professor Anil D. Sahasrabuddhe, Chairman AICTE. Professor Anil Sahasrabuddhe, the Professor of Mechanical Engineering at Indian Institute of Technology, Guwahati, joined All India Council for Technical Education as chairman on 17 July 2015. Professor Anil Sahasrabuddhe graduated from BBB College of Engineering and Technology, Hubli, affiliated to Karnataka University in Mechanical Engineering with first rank and gold medal in 1980. Subsequently, he obtained his master's and doctoral degree from Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore in 1982 and 1989, respectively. Professor Anil Sahasrabuddhe has held several important academic...
We can stop at this. That's good enough.
Okay. With great joy, invite Professor Anil Sahasrabuddhe, the chairman of AICTE, for his keynote address.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Wasim Arif, for that introduction. In fact, sorry I stopped you. In fact, I didn't want even that to be started off. But anyway, Dr. Shivaji Bandyopadhyay, who is the director of NITS-IIC-Future, Professor Tripathi, director of NIT from Allahabad, and also Subhashis Chaudhary. I don't know whether he has already joined or will be joining. All the faculty, PhD students, other students who have joined this very interesting and important phase of life of what we call as national education policy is announced, and everywhere there is a debate, discussion going on. Dr. Wasim Arif in the beginning very pointedly, very eloquently mentioned about what Swamiji talked about, what is education all about. It is bringing out the perfection already in man. So you are already born with something. How do you bring it out is the essence of the education. I think that is the most significant thing which you said. And followed by that, Dr. Shivaji Bandyopadhyay, in fact, laid down all aspects of NEP, right from primary education to the level of research and innovation, and all the facets that are there in the policy are talked about. I may be only doing little more elaboration on what he has already said, but he has already, in nutshell, said everything. I'm sure my friend also, Fazal Talukdar, has told about what is that innovation cell doing in NIT-IIC-Future and how it is important for the new education policy and for making our Bharat Atmanirbhar. So the Atmanirbhar Bharat is the slogan which is being often talked about by the Honorable Prime Minister. How do we really make it happen through this new education policy? I think we need to connect, because the topic given is future of engineering education. How is it related in relation to various facets of NEP that are already there? So I think if you look at what is all engineering about, engineering is nothing but application of the knowledge that is gained through science in terms of applications. I think that is the essence. And what is science all about is, we all know science is understanding nature, what is there, we want to find out and then try to use that in terms of applications, and then it comes as engineering and technology. But when you said about Swamiji's a very important statement, that it is not information but converting that into knowledge, which is very significant and important. And at the same time, whether it is man making, character building, nation building, are all offsets of that. So if you make a man, who is holistic, who is able to understand nuances of everything, automatically it will lead to what is known as development of the society, development of the nation and the world at large. And therefore, sustainable development goals, nature, all of that which are the created problems by the mankind, we will be able to address them through the delivery of education itself. So education has these components of information being available today at a very, very easy way on our laptops, on our computers, on our mobile phones, thanks to internet, which was developed in the late 20th century, and then we are all beneficiaries of that. Even this meeting in the pandemic we are able to hold, despite Corona being there, is because of the technology that is enabling us. And therefore, information has flooded. In fact, every day, huge number of content will come onto the web, but which is relevant, which is not relevant, how do you distill it into useful thing, is where the role of the teachers come in. So many people say that everything is available, then what is the role of teachers? The teachers have a big role of mentoring and guiding them, students, to address which are the relevant parts which you have to look at, and then where is that application going to be. Therefore, from information to knowledge, and from knowledge to wisdom based on the experience of the teachers, is the most significant thing that the teachers are required to continue to do. And the jobs will not be lost. Many times this question is asked, according to the online education, everything becoming through the MOOCs, what will be the role of teachers? Teachers will continue to be gurus. They are going to be mentors, and that is the role which they have to continue to play. And then the last one, in essence, compared to all other education in terms of engineering, is creating new products and processes, innovation, research. I think this is conversion of the knowledge into applications. I think that is what is missing in our country, and that's why, to make ourselves Atmanirbhar Bharat, the last component, innovation, research is going to play a very significant role, and there's a lot of facilitation that is provided into the new education policy. Now, a little bit on generic terms. As already told by Professor Shivaji Bandopadhyay, that policy talks about 3-4 very essential new things, and some of the old 3-4 things are also reiterated. What is reiterated is a 3-language formula. Teaching should be there even in the local language or mother tongue, is already talked about. Giving of autonomy to all the institutions. This was there from 1968, 1986, 1992, now in 2020, all of these policies talk about this. But there is a huge emphasis on these two aspects, giving of autonomy. All institutions should gradually become degree awarding institutions. None of them should be affiliated to the university. This affiliation system should be completely abolished, is one of the very important policy decisions which is taken. That means not all 40,000 and 10,000 standalone institutions and affiliated institutions that are 40,000 in number can become degree awarding, because it is not viable. 50,000 universities is not viable, because all these institutions, they are not very large enough to have enough what we call bandwidth in order to do everything that is required as per the policy. Some of these institutes have 100 students, 200 students, 300. They cannot be universities. The universities should have at least some number like 3,000, 4,000, and therefore, like any of these normal universities, which are even standalone universities, like central universities or IITs, NITs, ISRs, they are all having a figure of about 3,000, and that is the number. It can increase to 5,000, 10,000, no problem, but it should not be unwieldy. And now today, some of the universities who affiliate colleges have 600, 700 colleges, and the number of students are nearly 1 million. What are they going to do? Universities are the crucibles where a lot of churning action takes place, a lot of discussion, debate, research has to happen. But in such large universities, they have become like board, 10th board, 12th board, we are all aware. What do they do? They once in a while change the curriculum, and most of the time they only conduct examination and then evaluate the answer scripts and announce the results, and that too, lot of problems will come in the results. I think that's the same thing happening in many of the universities. Exams are not conducted on time. Even if they are conducted, evaluation is not correct. There are a lot of challenges being made, and then somehow they manage the show. So to break away from this, the autonomy is given, and therefore this 50,000 number has to reduce to about 3,000. So there are three possibilities. Some of the institutions which are of the same society and the trust, they are belonging to the same organization. Why can't they coalesce together, join together and become a university in its own right, and then start delivering multidisciplinary education? That means in an engineering school also you will have music, drama, dance, philosophy, psychology and history. At the same time, law or medicine as well. I think that is what a student, if he is interested, he should be able to get it. So you join hands and then do it. If they are from different societies also, they can merge. There are merger of companies happening, something similar can also happen. If in the case of government institutions, government can certainly add a college which is arts, commerce, science in the same city or town to join together and convert that into a university, which is a multidisciplinary university. I think this is one number, and each one of them become independent with a controller of examination, registrar and all that, and become like a university. So the number can reduce from 50,000 to maybe 3,000, maybe even 4 or 5,000, doesn't matter. But it should not be unwieldy. Everyone should have student strength of about 5,000, 10,000, should not be 10 lakh and 5 lakh and of that order. And that is number one. Then you will have a lot of activities which will propel us towards doing research and innovation. Otherwise, it is like board exam, which I said, memory-based question papers are set in and people will just memorize things and then get marks. But if you ask them, how do you apply it? Where do you apply it? Where is it used? They say this is never taught to us, nor we have tried to understand. I think to move away from that, this is the most significant change which is made. Second change is multiple exit and multiple re-entry, which is allowed. That means if a student finds that he is not fit for the education for which he has already joined, he must be in a position to go out with a certificate, with a diploma after 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years. All the programs being going to be minimum 4 years degree programs. Naturally, someone will find that he is not fit and therefore he will leave. Someone will have family difficulties, maybe a death in the family, maybe someone suddenly has lost his income, job, therefore he cannot pay the fees, therefore he wants to go out, do some job outside and then come back again. All these facilitation were not existing earlier, now it is being facilitated through this policy. The third one is academic bank of credits, that you can join an institution, do some credits 1 year, you can shift your gear and go to another place and also do remaining some number of credits, second year, another institute, third year, and then finally accumulate all the credits and then say that you will have complete degree being awarded through some other third or fourth place. So this is what is also feasible and possible. So these are all breathtaking, completely reformative, we can say that transformative or entrepreneurial, game-changing, flexible kind of a system which has been evolved by the Dr. Kasturi Rangan committee and which had persons like Dr. Manjul Bhargav, the field medalist from Princeton University and many others. And they have given all of this. So where is the relevance to engineering? So I have already talked about engineering also should become multidisciplinary. We are already knowing it that none of today's engineering products are single discipline products. Some time ago, maybe there were some with slight variation with some interdisciplinary nature. Today, you take any setup. For example, automobile used to be mechanical industries domain actually, where you have starting from an engine to the clutch and the gearbox to the brakes and the vehicle body and all that. If you look at it, it's all hardly anything other than mechanical. But gradually it got in components which were different types of engines were developed and spray injection was started. And through that, it became slightly electronic in nature. And now, who knows, a couple of maybe years later, it will be completely a on-board computer-based four-wheeler. It is a computer which will drive on its own. So I think there are huge changes that are happening in technology, and therefore everything is becoming anyway multidisciplinary. So within an engineering institution, although there will be some core which a student has to take to get a degree in mechanical or electrical or electronics or computer or metallurgy or chemical engineering, there must be an opportunity for a student to take courses from other disciplines, and that is how he will increase his width along with the depth. So it's education which is teenager. And in all IITs now today we have humanities and social sciences. Students take psychology, sociology. It should be increased so that a student will have whatever is his taste, he will be in a position to learn that. I think that is a part which was there in all the policies, but it has been highlighted more and more. The third thing is initial, not only education is in the local language or the mother tongue, but it should be allowed to be taken till the graduation is the next important thing which is done, so that many of the students from remote areas, rural areas, tribal areas, who had no access to English education, suddenly when they come to the higher secondary and beyond that, they find the difficulty in addressing, understanding and writing. And therefore, if we are in a position to help them in writing in their own language, maybe in Bengali, Assamese, in Marathi, Tamil or Telugu or Hindi, I think many of them will come forward and start learning. And our gross enrollment ratio, which is at 27%, and our vision was 30% by 2020 by Dr. Kalam. His vision is coming very close to that. Today, we don't know, 27 might have already increased to 28, 29. And within this year, we are very close to achieving the target which was set for us. But in the next 15 years, becoming 50% is no means a very easy job. And that is why that online education or ODL and online has becoming very important. We cannot have brick and mortar universities of so many numbers. But today we have about 3.5 crore students in the higher education and about 80 lakh in the technical education itself. Of that, half will be in engineering education. So we take in about 1 million students every year. So multiplied by 4 is 40 lakh students will be there in engineering at a given time, and plus minus some 5-10%. And overall technical education, which includes pharmacy, architecture, management, hotel management, applied art, craft, design, another 40 lakh. So at least 80 lakh. That means 1/4 of the gross enrollment ratio is catered by the technical education. So if this has to be catapulted to 50% by 2035 in another 10-15 years, so first is we have to double. But our population is going to be not stagnant. It is also growing in these 15 years. And therefore, the likelihood is that the total number of students in the higher education in the next 10-15 years will be 10 crore. 10 crore students in the higher education system, which is the sum total of the population of many countries. Forget about higher education studying in many countries, but the population itself of the whole country will not be of that order. So we have great challenges ahead, and that's why online education has become very important. And all of us during this COVID-19 time, we learned, because earlier we were not using it as much as we were using it in the last 7-8 months, and we have really understood the power and strength of that. I'll come to AICT's 2-3 small examples which will tell us, which I was trying for the last 3 years. I was unsuccessful, but this year I became successful automatically without doing anything. Our inspections, which are done for the institutions, they all go physically, and there are already a lot of charges and counter charges. The colleges will say that these people were corrupt and they were asking money we did not give, therefore they are writing wrong reports. And the inspectors, that means the faculty members who go to these colleges for inspection, they say we asked for that to be shown, they have not shown, they are lying. So who is lying, who is not lying? By sitting in Delhi in an office, we will never know. But I wanted a ISRO-based camera system which they had developed to be used in inspection without going to the campuses. But it was not somehow materializing because of, neither experts were ready, nor AICT officials were ready, nor there were availability of such cameras. They have a camera which has 5 different, 6 out of 6 faces, 5 faces have a camera. And if you click remotely, all 5 dimensions of the room, in terms of length, width, height, and also the kind of infrastructure that is there, the 3D picture will get created, and you will have a walkthrough, and you will know whether something is there or not there without going to an institution. But unfortunately, this did not take off. But now through Microsoft Teams platform, we gave licenses to some people and from the college as well and to the experts, and we were able to do inspection all online. So I think the power of technology was visible. Our Atal Innovation Mission, which is the Atal Academy, through which we have been training faculty members. NIT Silchar was part of it, NIT Allahabad was part of it, all NITs are part of it, and many colleges, IITs also have supported us. Many universities abroad and their professors have helped us in conducting those programs. And earlier in one program, we had 50 people physically attending them. Today, through the online platform, simultaneously, we can have 500,000 also. But we found that effectiveness is possible only when it is up to 200. So we are restricting now all faculty development programs to 200 numbers. So it is almost the same as you are running into a classroom and then learning from those faculty members. I think all of this power of technology is certainly going to catapult us to achieve that gross enrollment ratio very, very easily. But what is significant is like man making and character building, and also what you said as nation building. Two important things which everyone has to do in the education, and in particular in technical education, is one is employability, which often industry talks about, that our graduates are not employable. They are employable only to extent of 30, 40, 50. None of the surveys says more than 50%. And we have 100 students and only 50 can be employed. What is happening to the remaining 50? So that should be a worrisome factor to us. And how we can make all 100% students to be employable when they graduate and go out of our campuses. And that is the most fundamental thing, and which is the interest of the parents, which is the interest of the students who come paying high fee. They would like to get a job. So I think employability is one aspect, and this policy has a lot of things about that. Second part is, why should everyone try to get a job from a big company or a small company? Why can't they become entrepreneurs and create startups by their own? And therefore, in the curriculum, how can we give opportunity for students to be innovative, to create entrepreneurial venture when they are still in the institutions and colleges? Can we give them a sabbatical leave, like professors are given sabbatical leave to try and experiment for 1 year? If they are successful, they may not come back at all. They will employ even faculty members into their companies. Otherwise, they will come back little later. I'm aware of IIT Bombay also, as well as, in fact, the Tata Institute of Social Sciences. Sometime they had announced that there will be no placement interviews at all. And in IIT Bombay, they said you can come back a little later. You start your entrepreneurial venture. If you succeed, fine. Otherwise, a couple of years down the line, you come back and we will still allow you to sit in the placement interviews. I think we need to create entrepreneurs, create new jobs. And for training faculty and then for training intern students, lots of activities that AICT is doing. Similarly, all other institutions are doing. I think that is what is going to build the nation. That is what is going to make our nation Atmanirbhar. So these are the important facets. And the last but not the least, very important for all of us who are in the higher education sector, especially in NITs, and we have IITs and ISERs, IIMs, all these central universities where we need to have research culture to be developed. Innovation and research, they go hand in hand. And for this, there is National Research Foundation, talk about this, which is going to be under directly Prime Minister's advisor to, scientific advisor to the Prime Minister, who is going to deal with this. It is going to be a huge funding, not only in science technology, but also in humanities and social sciences possible through this, which was a difficulty today. We apply for a project to DST or CSIR or to MHRD or to UGC or any of these organizations, Department of Biotechnology, each one has limitation of giving fund. They will say that even if your project requires 5 crore rupees, we will give only 40 lakh. We have no fund for giving it more. So now this National Research Foundation, on the basis of similar to what is National Science Foundation in the US, is going to be having a concentration of huge money which is available for being given, but there will be accountability. So far, because what we needed was not given, we were also not accountable. We will achieve something or not achieve something. And saying this new policy, which will start with the NRF, will have huge funding, as much as you require, but you have to show results. In 3 years, if you have committed something, you have to achieve them and then show it. I think this is what is already ongoing. Now, two simple important things which are mentioned in the policy and which have already started off through AICT. Fortunately, this was the role given to us, is starting off what is known as Indian Knowledge Systems Division. we all are aware that huge achievements in science technology was done in this country from 5,000, 10,000 years to right up to about 300 years ago. Up to 1700, our even GDP was 35% of the whole globe. But we suddenly started slipping because of the invasion, and after British took over the entire country, and we started suffering from that. So we need to know our ancient past, what all we had achieved. We have to be proud of that, but we should not be only happy with the past. How all that knowledge can be made relevant to today, and not only relevant today, how do we carry forward that research in order to produce new technologies which will be not only useful for our country but for the entire globe. I think that is the mission with which Indian Knowledge Systems, Bharatiya Gyana Parampara, this division is started, and AICT is the host to this. And we have already employed 5 people. It will continue to grow in the years to grow. So whether it is our textbooks, whether it is in terms of carrying out further research based on all of that, whether it is Ayurveda, material science, yoga, all of that which we had achieved the zenith, we'll have to reinvent that and start off from where we had left long ago. I think that is another area. The second one is MHRD's innovation cell is also operating already for 3 years. We are all aware of the Smart India hackathons, which we are holding annually. There is a ranking of innovation, ARIA rankings. All of this is also supporting the innovation. These 2 divisions are already there. The third task, which is also slowly being given, is that of translation of all the MOOCs courses which are available in English in the local languages. In the beginning, I said degrees also can be awarded in local languages. First, we should have material for that, for studying, reading, and then taking classes in that language. Therefore, books are required, there are notes required, and therefore the level of preparedness is not as much as it is there. Therefore, that is also being prepared. I think if you do all of this, I'm sure in the next 5 years, a lot of achievements are going to be visible. The seeds are sown, the policy is transformative, but unless we make use of all the features, and many times I have seen that even if there are enablement clauses given there in the policy, people are not daring to use them. When it comes to autonomy, people are not applying for autonomy, even though autonomy was being given by the UGC to many colleges. Only 10% colleges became autonomous. So I think there is a long way to go, but the seeds are sown, the passage is known, the strategy is in place. Now it is the action and the implementation. I think if you do all of that, we will achieve the target that is set for us. Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir, for such an amazing explanation of the new education policy and briefing us various aspects of the same. We're very grateful to you for kindly accepting our invitation and delivering this talk. We all enjoy your interaction, and we are looking forward to your support and cooperation in future as always. Thanks, sir. I'm extremely happy and privileged to now introduce Professor Rajiv Tripathi, Director, MNNIT Allahabad. Professor Rajiv Tripathi is currently working as the Director, MNNIT Allahabad. He completed his BTech in 1986, M. 1992, and PhD in 1998 from the University of Allahabad. He joined MNNIT Allahabad as a faculty member in 1988 and is currently a professor since 2005. He was the faculty at the University of the West Indies, St. Augustine, Trinidad, West Indies, from 2002 to 2004. He was the visiting faculty at School of Engineering, Liverpool John Moores University, UK, in the year 1998 and 1999. Besides his vast teaching and research experience of around 30 years, he also has a vast administrative experience at MNNIT Allahabad. He worked there as in the various capacity of various administrative posts. Professor Tripathi has made pioneering research contributions and has solved a number of open problems. He has published more than 160 reputed papers in reputed international journals and conferences. and supervised 19 PhD scholars. He has worked closely with government as well as industry on various problems and has successfully led and completed large projects, programs at national and international levels. Important among them include sponsored projects by Government of India and British government under Indo-UK Science Technology Research Fund and projects sponsored by Ministry of Human Resource Development, Government of India. He is a well-known teacher, a mentor.
I think it's enough.
Thank you, sir. Now I'm extremely happy and grateful to
Okay. Honorable Chairman AICT, Professor Shastri Buddhe, Professor Chaudhary, Director IIT Bombay, Professor Shivaji Bandyopadhyay, Director NIT-IIC-Future, distinguished faculty colleagues from NIT-IIC-Future and other institutions, and my dear other participants who are joining on this very important and relevant topic of national education policy. My earlier speakers, Professor Bandyopadhyay and Professor Sahasbuddhe, has covered almost everything which was required to be covered, and I don't find anything where I can put in my views. But certainly, at the end, as Professor Sahasbuddhe has said, that policy is there, system is there. Now it is we who have to take the initiatives for implementation. And implementation, as far as the implementation is concerned, implementation is not going to come overnight. And for implementation, as has been said, that we need the institutions with autonomy, we need the institutions with limited number of students and not with the pool of institutions who are taken as just a board for conducting examination just once in a while, revising syllabus, as has been said by sir. So straight away, I'm coming to the implementation part, and as far as I could understand that we talk about multidisciplinary and holistic education as a part of or as a theme of this new education policy. And to me, the one of the very important objective is to trap the best talent which is available in our country, maybe in the remotest part, in the remotest village of the country. That is the kind of objective which we all have to evolve. And we need to provide the equal opportunity to all such students or all such aspirants at their level or at the institution level. And that is where the initial teaching, maybe for 1 or 2 years, that has to be in the regional or local language, as has already been said by Professor Sasbuddhe. But carrying forward up to the 4 years in the same language may not be appropriate at this point. We can talk about training them, grooming them in their own languages. These are the points I am putting it as a challenge, and that's what where we have to do it, the exact actionable point. So coming back to that issue, that we need to trap such talent and we need to nurture them with their own local languages, maybe for the first 2 years, and after that we train them so that they can gel with the normal students in the institute, because there can't be two class of the students of the same category in the same institution. So that is the way in which I think we can start, and this talent can be nurtured by providing teaching blended education ranging from social sciences, technology, science, culture, and arts and psychology, etc. Now, having said this, it is a part of national education policy. Everybody talks about it, but the real challenge is with the institutions, that how to do it, because we, especially at NITs, what we have the limited faculty members in specialized areas of engineering, and till now, to the best of my experience, within the department, I mean within the institutions, we always work in isolation. Electronics people will not talk to mechanical people. Mechanical people will not talk to computer science people. So, first of all, we have to develop the culture of multidisciplinary within our system. That will take time, because over the period of last so many years, we have developed that kind of culture in our system. Now, second thing is that while we talk about the design of the courses, one has to always remember that there is a difference between specialization and expertise. I am specializing in, say, for electronics and communication because I have got the PhD degree in this area, but I may be the expert of automobile because of my interest. So that kind of thing we need to find out. But normally, up to today, we don't have, we have the very few limited faculty members who will have the different specializations and different expertise. By and large, majority of people will have the similar expertise as that of their specialization. So we need to develop gradually uh, a sense that specialization and expertise is different, and that is where the challenge is. And that challenge is, number one, if we start from the beginning, the number one part is the in terms of course design. And as of now, what is happening in our course design process? We, at a department level, what we do, we have a subject which works as an anchor node, and what we try to do in order to make this anchor node, that is the subject, is strong and strong, we try to support it with the allied things only. Say, for example, if I am developing the course on data communication networking, I am just supporting it with the communication courses. I am supporting with maybe some stochastic process and queuing theory courses. I don't talk about the other aspect. So if I have to develop the course of that kind, then this anchor node should be supported by different other disciplines also, depending upon today's environment. And that is where, when we will teach those kinds of courses, then only the specialization and expertise will be will be different. That will not be only specialization, and expertise is also in the area of specialization. Along with this, as has been said with the Swamiji's quote and others, we need to have the social, moral, family, ethical values, and because that is an integral part of our holistic education. And if we do it, then automatically it is going to reflect in the overall personality and academics as well as in research. Because if I talk about research, there it is very important to be ethical, to be moral, and that is what needs to be built up from the beginning. Then only the person will be cautious at that level. And if we talk about the course design, I have already just briefly explained, and accordingly, the pedagogy has to be developed. And pedagogy will be developed on the basis of the concept on which the course has been designed. As I have said, that you have the anchor node, and with that anchor node, I am supporting with the different disciplines, maybe from the same discipline or from the different discipline. So I should be very clear in my objective, what at the end of the day, what I am expecting by this course delivery. And accordingly, the teaching pedagogy has to be developed. Now, mm, faculty at all levels needs to be trained for both the things, for the development of such courses and for teaching pedagogy. And with this, the course is presented in an interesting manner, because that is very important. Whenever we are developing a course and presenting the course, the one of the very important function of a teacher, as Professor Sahasbuddhe was saying, that everything is available, MOOCs is available, all the things are available. Why? Where is the need of a teacher? So, need of a teacher is to create an interest in the subject by the way of presentation, by the way of introducing the subject. And with this, if we talk about the different actionable points, one of the important thing is in terms of research. Uh, Research, as far as my perception goes, research always improves the quality of teaching. Good quality research, ethical research always improves the quality of teaching. Coming straight to our NIT system, somewhere some noise is coming. Can I request the participants who are not speaking, please mute their mic?
Yes, sir, we have muted. Go ahead.
Right. So, straight away coming to the things that we at NIT system can immediately implement. Let us talk about the actionable points. A lot of things have been talked over the period of couple of months about the new education policy, and now it is the institutions who has to take a lead. And for institutions like NITs, uh, I have tried to identify the different actionable points which can be immediately implemented, maybe without any financial support from anywhere. And if we start implementing those things, then probably we will be, as NIT system as a whole, we will be able to take lead in the implementation and realization of the thoughts and ideas of new education policy. Uh, Let me try to share my slide. I don't know whether I will be able to share it or not.
Sir, you can find the share button is there, sir. It is enabled now.
Yeah, I'm trying to do that.
Yes, yes.
It's taking time. It's not coming? No.
No, no, sir. So click on share, then you can self choose the screen one.
Oh,
Yes, sir. It is about to come. Yes, sir. Now open the PPT, sir. Yes, sir. We are able to see. Yes,
right.
sir.
So
Yes.
I'll not talk about, I'll straight go to this actionable point. A brief actionable plan is proposed on NEP 2020 by interlocking the focus on students, faculty, curriculum, traditional knowledge, emergent technologies, society, and humanity. The action plan is proposed under three broad headings drawn from part 2 of the policy. And if you see what I have tried to present in this table, that electric bend of multidisciplinary skill-based education, which covers the point number 11 and 12 of part 2 of NEP 2020. And here, whatever I have said, that requires nothing additional. Create a basket of courses at UG and PG levels, because we are already doing that in the form of a professional elective and open elective, to provide the students wide array of learning possibilities according to their interest in order to develop a holistic personality. Now, what I mean to say here is that we are already doing these things. The only thing is that we need to increase the basket. As far as at NIT Allahabad, I have taken the experience from our own institution. I am sure that the similar thing is happening at all the NITs. So now, as of now, whatever professional electives are open electives are being offered, that is being offered only from different departments in the institution. Instead of that, if we can increase the basket by adding the courses uh, beyond our engineering departments, social sciences department, and management departments, which most of the NITs are having, if we try to see the institutions nearby us, and we can take the expertise of those institutions and increase this open elective basket and float it for the students, maybe from second year itself. From second year curriculum, we can have one in each semester, and gradually we can go up to 7 semesters. Then this can be started in the coming academic session 2020, 21-22, because it has to be approved by Senate at no cost. We can immediately implement it. Then we can have the open electives starting from second year onwards, as I have already said, to improve the multidisciplinary skills of the students. This also can be started immediately from the next academic year, and just internal matter, Senate has to approve it. No additional financial burden is required, just a minor uh, revision in our course curriculum structure, and then we can talk about flexible course curriculum with lesser number of compulsory subjects. Yes, that is where we need the reorientation of our courses, because many departments will say that no, this is my core course, I cannot compromise on this. That's what we see normally in the curriculum development. So, credit provisioning of online courses offered by other universities and colleges, that also we can start immediately. Absolutely, there is no problem in this. And then at least one compulsory workshop on startups, innovations, IPR, and patents should be organized twice in a year. Then introduce flexible entry exit options by creating credit pool. I'll come back on this point maybe after finishing this table. Engage adjunct faculty from good institutions, professionals, industry for practical components. Establish multidisciplinary laboratories, creating regional challenges and socio-economic upliftment. Yes, it will require certain funding, and today we need to find out what will be the source of funding to be more practical. We are getting limited support from uh, government, and we need to explore what are the possibilities by which we can create such multidisciplinary laboratories to promote patenting, technology licensing, and technology transfer, and to connect laboratories to the market. Now here, one important thing is that as a part of our BTech project and as a part of our MTech thesis, what we do, we normally complete it, do it, models are developed, simulations are developed, and the student is awarded the degree, and then it goes to dump. Now, here at this point, I would like to mention that we are not a developed nation. We are developing nation. So we have the problems. We have our own problems, and that problem is in and around us. As a part of our project and MTech thesis, if we can take up the issues which are around us, and as a part of the project and thesis, if we can develop some model, some solution which is cost effective and which is applicable to our social culture and social needs, immediately we can develop the prototype, we can transfer the technology. That kind of environment we need to promote in our system. And if we are able to do it, even if out of say number of projects and theses, even if 5-10 such projects are transferred as a technology transfer and it is injected into the market over the period of time, the scenario will be completely changed within a period of 4 or 5 years. The only thing which is required is that we as a director or deans or head of the department, we need to motivate our faculty colleagues to take up these kinds of issues, and I'm confident that the kind of students which we are getting, if we tell them, if we motivate them, definitely they are going to come out with the problems as well as they will be able to give the proper and good solution which is applicable. Now, use of technological tools in education, introducing e-learning modules, provision of online assessment. This, I think, Professor Shastri Budde has very well explained, and just we need to develop some kind of infrastructure at our institute level in the form of development of virtual labs and virtual classrooms. And I'm sure that you all are aware, but NITK Surathkal and other one or two more NITs, they are doing very good job in introducing or developing the virtual labs, which we have used last semester, and many of them were very good and very interactive. Then PG and PhD programs with research-based specialization of technological and strategic importance to be introduced. And of course, this needs the approval of BOG, Senate of respective institute. Faculty training and upgradation. Yes, faculty training at this juncture is very important. And what training is required, that is primarily that should be focused towards the course design, towards the changed pedagogy, and more and more effective use of the e-learning tools, which we have already started in almost all the institutions. And this year, let me share that this year the CSAB responsibility was given to NIT Allahabad, and when in November because the idea was that in 2003 when we all started this online counseling process, the idea at that all was started at Allahabad. At that time only the idea was that online counseling means no student should travel to institutions. They should sit at home and do all the process. But somehow we could not do it. In November last year, in the first meeting when I shared these ideas, uh, again with the kind of I should not say, but mental block that no, it is going to do this, it is going to do that. But ultimately, because of this current situation of pandemic, I'm happy that blessings in disguise, we could achieve this online counseling process, and it was very effective, very efficient, and maybe in coming 1 or 2 years, the overall objective that the students sitting at home using the technology, taking all the decisions, and we at the administrative side, we are able to implement it. And that is what we are able to do it. So the faculty training and upgradation has to be primarily exposed to different e-learning modules and their features, ensure good governance at all levels and in all activities. That is what is required for effective implementation of whatever we plan, because it will take time. Nurture and acknowledge talented faculties. We can and staff. We can start with the awards for recognizing and appreciating teaching, research, and other extension services. Collaboration with the industries for investment in institutions. That is the need of the hour, because we have to look for alternative fundings for the development of state of art modern laboratories, and that is where we need to uh, need to mobilize the funds from other sources. That will require a well laid down mechanism, maybe from alumni, maybe from CSR funding from the industry and other sources. Hiring of adjunct faculty in the areas of arts, law, etc. And unfortunately, some of the NITs, whenever we are talking about hiring of the faculty or creating the good research ambience, that requires a good quality infrastructure. But unfortunately, some of the NITs, even the older NITs, they have to develop and they have to work hard to create that kind of ambience, and that is where the special efforts will be required. Then we need to have uh, introduction of indicators for self-monitoring. And now, when I say self-monitoring, this is something very important that teaching community has to understand, that we are given a kind of means not only a kind but fairly good amount of freedom, and as you get the freedom, you have to be more and more responsible towards the system. And if we are clear and we are honest with our own, and if we are enjoying our profession, then with these only two things, that enjoying the profession, taking the challenges, and honest with our own, if 80% of the faculty, 80% probably I have set the target on the higher side, But if 50 to 70% of the faculty is like that, institution is automatically going to flourish. Coming to next, the financial support for the startup for faculty and students. Yes, there again we need to search for alternate fundings, maybe alumni and other sources. Then, if we refer to optimum utilization of educational resources for equity and quality in higher education, with reference to point number 14 of part 2 of NEP, the sharing resources, library, lab, and other infrastructure and other pooled resources among logically networked institutions, resource sharing at nominal rate to underprivileged students of other institutions can be extended, or maybe at the institution level we can have the understanding and whatever uh, instruments, equipments, lab facilities, library facilities are available here, that can be made available to faculty and students of other institutions, maybe through electronic mode or maybe by visiting physically to the campus. And there should be more and more encouragement for collaborative activities using all the open source platforms which are available, and promote traditional knowledge and enable local people. We derive pleasure and proud of our traditional culture, our traditional knowledge, but we feel happy only up to that level. But this is the time, and the NEP has given us an opportunity to go into the deeper details of our traditional knowledge and scriptures and bring out the things from there which can be put forward for the further addition into our our curriculum or our education, making the expertise in more than one area, specialization in one area. Create research networks at national and international levels and share resources to attain optimum utilization. This we can work out, and we can start the things in 22-23 session. And at the end, what I would like to conclude is the new policy will bring Indian education at par with the global education. It will cater to all the stages of child development with greater emphasis on quality, productive outcomes, increased enrollment, and inclusivity. The NEP 2020 will change the fate of millions of students and eventually the future of our country, as youth are the future of the nation. We will regain the status of Vishwaguru in all spheres of life. As far as this presentation is concerned, I'm over with this, and some of the points which I would like to add is in terms of research. I have not put any point in terms of research ambience. Uh, I just want to stop this sharing. Right. Some of the points on the research activities in the systems like our system, in NIT system, we need to create a research ambience. We need to create a research council in our institution. And when I mean to, what I mean to say is, with the research council, that we need to identify the potential areas where we have the expertise, and we can collaborate. First, we can collaborate among our institutions, that is NIT system. Then second, we can collaborate with the nearby higher institutions, and we can come out with the kind of research problems uh, which is viable for our society, which is useful for our society in developing the low cost solution to the problems which we are facing day to day. And yes, that will require different kinds of discussions. And I'm confident that with the areas or the points which I have tried to work out for immediate actionable point for NIT systems, that will be taken and analyzed. I don't say that it can be implemented in all the NITs in the similar fashion, because every NIT has got different kinds of issues, and depending, but yes, I'm confident that depending upon some of the points out of these actionable points can be taken up and implemented. Then second part is for development of the curriculum, which provides an opportunity of multi-level entry, multi-level exit, and then we can have the more and more number of baskets. Then we can have, as has been said by Professor Sasbuddhe, that requires a different kind of model, and I have developed a model for that, but since still some work is going on, so I'm not able to share those things. As soon as I will be able to uh, base, develop it and get it passed through my local bodies, then I will be happy to share those models with all our NIT system. So thank you very much for providing me this opportunity. I'm especially thankful to Professor Shivaji Bandyopadhyay, who called me and who just said that this is the thing where you have to be there. I said, yes, it is your
Thank
order.
you.
I'll follow it. And thank you. I hope that I was able to do some justice.
Yeah, definitely.
So thank you very much. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for presenting such a wonderful session with full of information, analysis, and depicting the future of engineering education in the light of New Education Policy 2020. Thank you for kindly accepting our invitation and delivering this talk. We are looking forward to your support and cooperation in future as well. Even though any formal question and answer is not acceptable after this kind of keynote address, but we are not able to resist.
I'm open.
Yes,
Please.
sir, but we are not able to resist ourselves to hear from you and other eminent speakers today. So
I'll
we
be
shall now we shall now take up some questions that may arise in our minds of the participants. So please raise your hand and go ahead.
Enabled. So they can unmute actually. They can unmute.
Please unmute yourself and raise your query.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, this is Neeraj Kumar Goswami speaking from GHRIT Nagpur. I am working here as assistant professor in electronics and telecommunication engineering. Sir, my question is that we see that there are many students who are not able to qualify JEE and they don't get to study in Institute of National Importance, but anyway they get in engineering colleges, private engineering colleges and university. And I have been seeing that since past 3-4 years there are lots of criteria, NBA and accreditations and all these things are going on, but the students are not benefiting from it as much as they should. They are losing interest in study, and what can we do to implement for a better understanding of student in private institutes?
Right, very good question, relevant question. Uh, See, there are two parts of this question. One is how to promote such students to enter into give them equal opportunity. What we have observed is that language is one of the barrier uh, for getting these such students into the institutions of national importance, and that is why probably the government of India is thinking very seriously to start this JEE mains in around 30 different regional languages. So that will create some kind of equal opportunity platform. Uh, Let us hope that the students of that category will be able to get that opportunity. Now, second part, honestly speaking, lies with us as a teacher. As I have said earlier, that one of the very important way or one of the very important function of a teacher is to create an interest in the subject. And now, for creating the interest in the subject as a teacher, there are three P's which are very important: planning, preparation, and presentation. And for all these three P's, we need to know your audience, right? So if you see in the class what is the variety, what is the level of the students, we need to do it like that only. I have seen many teachers who will teach very in a very hi-fi kind of thing, and when I tell them that uh, average student is not average student is not getting what you are teaching in the class, so you cannot imagine the kind of I'll say criminal answer which they give. मैं यहाँ गधों को पढ़ाने के लिए नहीं बैठा हुआ. अरे what for you are doing, what for you are teaching. अच्छा बच्चा तो अपने से पढ़ ही लेगा. So we have to be, this onus lies on the teachers. We have to be honest with ourselves. We have to create the interesting pedagogy and create an interest in the subject. Or if we are able to do it, I am confident that those students will remember you throughout your life. So these are the two things which I want to tell. I hope I have been able to put the finger on your questions.
Thank you very much, sir. Very convincing.
I have a question. Sir, I have a question. Actually, it is, you can say, we can do something for creation of employment in the vicinity, means our local people, they can get some employment. So it's called Vedic plaster, sir. Vedic plaster means it is made of cow dung bricks. And if we make we can make houses, at least in I don't know about the 2 story, at least 1 story you can make, and it will be acting like a air conditioned room. It's during the summer it will be cool, and during the winter it will be hot. So, one person has done PhD in cow dung. He's from Haryana, Rohtak. So he is actually teaching, I mean, giving practical training. At present, it is going on, sir, since November. So if we can do so, I think we can save a lot of money. So many institutions, if they make houses in their, I mean, in the campus, so quarters or anything, So one thing is that it will be pollution free, and other thing is you can save a lot of money, and local people can get some employment opportunities.
Yeah, that's a great idea, sir. Can you please introduce yourself, because there are many faculties outside NIT-Future. Yes, sir.
Please repeat.
Sir, can you please give a introduction of yours, because there are many faculties outside the institute. Yes, sir.
So I'm Dr. Bishwajit Purkasth, Computer Science and Engineering, NIT-Silchar.
Right. So I think there was no question attached to it. This was the piece of information which you were trying to share. And as I said that yes, there are certain good things, but definitely it will have certain limitations also. And we need to see the transfer of such kind of traditional knowledge to industry. I'll not say the technology, but whatever has been developed, uh, definitely it should be explored that how effectively it can be implemented. That's it from my side. I
Thank you.
don't find any question attached to this.
No, sir, no question.
Sir, I have a question, if I may.
Yes. Please introduce yourself and
Sir,
go
this
ahead.
is Dr. This is Dr. Kulkarni from NIT-Silchar. Sir, my question is that last 20 years we have seen a sudden rise in the number of technical institutions across India, and last 5 years we have seen the decline of the students' choice towards engineering, as number of seats are getting or remaining vacant in the private institutions, not only in the private institutions, but also various state government engineering colleges as well. So, in the view of NBA accreditation, whether it will be made compulsory, means, or the national education policy, do it have anything related to making it as mandatory for the institutions to have NBA accreditation?
NBA accreditation and other regulatory things, if we are not honest with our own, no regulatory body can set you right. Right? Because
Yes.
you raised the question of unemployability. That unemployability has nothing to do with your accreditation. Yes, if the accreditation is done with true spirit, with honesty, definitely things will be improved. Now, another point which I would like to mention with reference to this question is that there is no dearth of job in the market. The only thing is that we need to produce the quality manpower. See, I'll tell you the example that I worked as a professor in charge training and placement for 7 years just before joining as director. And one of the very important and pinching or painful statements which I used to get from the industries which are visiting, when I asked them कितना बच्चा ले जाओगे भाई, बोला सर जितने अच्छे मिल जाएंगे सबको ले जाएंगे. और after that, after the interview process is over, the kind of feedback which I used to get is, sir, your students are very good. They know theoretically everything. They are very sound theoretical knowledge. When it comes down to the practical application, they are not able to move even a single step. Meaning thereby that we teach them theory, we don't tell them what is the practical application of this theory. And if we do it like that, I don't think that there is any dearth of opportunities in terms of employability. We need a good quality communicator. We need a good quality uh, foundation knowledge and its application. तो हम लोग अगर अपना चेंज करेंगे थोड़ा सा, एम्प्लॉयबिलिटी डेफिनेटली बढ़ेगी.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
I'm sorry, I'm putting everything on faculty members only, not on the system. But yes, we
No,
need to
it's
we are the important stakeholders. Faculty members are the important stakeholders. So we have to think about it.
yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sir, I'm showing the house they have made with cow dung bricks, and finally it is plastered with what is called Vedic plaster. Means they have made it with cow dung 70% and 20% gypsum and some other things 10%. So it is just like RCC building. It will look like RCC. There is no difference.
Yeah, that's great, Prabhas. So that's yes, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Uh, I would like to just mention here, I belong to a village,
Okay, sir.
and during my childhood age, during summers, we used to spend summer vacation in my village. And all the houses, mud houses with cow dung pasting on that, it was so comfortable in those rooms, even without fans.
Yes,
So
sir.
this is again a established technology, and just we have forgotten that. So
Yes.
I have seen such kind of houses earlier, and I have used it, not only seen. Yes, gypsum, etc. This is new thing which has come up.
And we can save electricity charges also, sir.
Oh yes, definitely.
Yeah, any other participants? Arif sir, ask me.
Yes. Anyone with any other query? Not, we have one query, sir. He has written in the chat box. Dr. Shankar from E&I Department of NIT-IIC-Future. Sir, he is of the opinion, in continuation to Dr. Kulkarni's question, may we know your opinions on difference between the reality, curriculum development and assessment giving back to the society, and the points mentioned in the SAR submitted to the accrediting agencies?
Sorry, I could not get it.
Yeah, the question is, he wants to know the opinion on difference between the reality of curriculum development and assessment and the points mentioned in the SAR submitted to the accrediting agency.
Acha, as far as the curriculum development and its implementation is concerned, and SAR for NBA, SAR for NBA also talks about outcome-based education, right? So when we are talking about outcome-based education, uh, it has to be very clearly mentioned that what is the objective, what are the aims and objectives of this course, and how we are going to realize that. The complete accreditation process is to see that whatever objective you have set, whether we are able to achieve it or not, and whether there is a clarity in our course curriculum development, and with the kind of new education policy with the multidisciplinary things coming into picture, the SAR and other accreditation process will also slightly revised. I'm sure about it.
Thank you, sir. I hope, yes.
Yeah, good evening, Professor Chaudhuri. Professor Chaudhuri, Director IIT Bombay, has just joined. Yeah. So I thank you, Professor Tripathi, for giving us not only your actual speaking time, but through the question answering session. So you also enlightened our colleagues at different places. So it was a nice listening to you. That is who is always a guiding force for the NIT system. So thank you.
Professor
So
Chaudhary, good evening. Chaudhary Sahab, namaskar.
Namaskar, namaskar. How are you,
namaskar.
Tripathi ji? Very good, and thank you, Professor Bandyopadhyay, for invitation. Okay, it's very good to see you. Okay, both of you in sweaters, whereas I am in t-shirt here. Okay, that's Mumbai. Okay. No, it's wonderful.
Yeah. Okay, so Ari, so next.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. I shall take this opportunity to introduce Professor Subhashish Chaudhary, Director, IIT Bombay. Professor Chaudhary is presently the Director of Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay, and also a professor in the Department of Electrical Engineering. He earned his BTech degree from IIT Kharagpur in 1985 and MSc from the University of Calgary, Canada in 1987. He completed his PhD from the University of California, San Diego, USA in 1990. Professor Chaudhary has held various administrative positions at IIT Bombay, including Deputy Director, Academic and Infrastructure Affairs, Dean, International Relations, Head of the Electrical Engineering Department, and Wardenship of Hostels as well. Subhashish Chaudhary works in the area of image processing, computer vision, machine learning, and computational haptics. Some of the areas where he has contributed significantly include depth recovery from defocused images, image super resolution, blind deconvolution, hyperspectral image visualization, and pattern recognition in remote sensing images. Professor Chaudhary has received numerous awards for his research. These include the G.D. Birla Award for Scientific Research, NASI Reliance Industries Platinum Jubilee Award. He is also a distinguished alumnus of IIT Kharagpur. Professor Chaudhary has been a fellow of Indian National Academy of Engineering, Indian Academy of Sciences, National Academy of Sciences, and Indian National Science Academy. He is also a fellow of IEEE. He has also been visiting professor at several international universities, such as the University of Paris, Sud, France, Technical University of Munich, Germany, National University of Singapore, University of Erlangen, Germany, Hong Kong Baptist University, and with great bliss and joy, I'd like to invite Professor Subhashish Chaudhary, the Director of IIT Bombay, for his keynote address.
Thank you, Dr. Washim, for a very lucid introduction. And thank you, Director Bandyopadhyay, for this special invitation. Okay. It's a wonderful opportunity to get to the people there. Of course, being there physically means something different, but when you are online, it doesn't matter. It's not the people from only Silchar or somewhere close by, but they could be from anywhere. So there's an advantage of having people from all over, but the disadvantage is that you don't connect locally. Okay, because when you go there, you meet people, you want to see what is the best Silchari food and others, we are missing those kind of fun. But nonetheless, it's my great honor to give this particular kind of a presentation to you with a specific view of NEP 2020. Okay. And particularly more from the engineering perspective, engineering education. That's what I was asked to talk on. Okay. So thank you for that opportunity. Now, before I go into this, the actual, let's say on the NEP and other, let me start even at a little earlier time. Okay. So when we, if you open up any book, which is like in the Indian scriptures, which started long time ago, okay, say, Bhashya of Shankaracharya and others, somebody writes, you will find there's a word called Anubandha Chatushtaya, means Chatushtaya means 4, and Anubandha means this is like, at the beginning, there are 4 verticals that they are talking about, okay, and this is in the introduction to the book, they always write that one. Okay, most of them, they're very, very meticulous. And what are those? I think first let's look at, and that gives you a perspective on the relevance of the education and others, particularly, of course, then we'll go for the higher education specifically. So first of all, you have to see that so this is more from the writing of a book. So it's basically back, okay, but book is also a part of the process of acquisition of knowledge, right? So it should be the same thing, which is the idea of teaching. Now, the first one is that Adhikari kaun hai? Who are the Adhikari? Means who are eligible to study that one. So it is not like, whether A or B. It's basically what is your basic qualification to go for that. So whenever you talk about higher education, whether it's engineering or something else, then before somebody comes in, the person should come with a certain specific kind of readiness. So they could be a high school, okay, with a proper set. If it is an engineering, we would say that the person should have mathematics, skill in mathematics, physics, chemistry, biology, whatever the kind of area that they need. So that's a requirement. See, only when you have that, it makes sense for somebody to go to the next level. Okay. So that means when I talk, I know that there is a prerequisite normally in the curriculum. Okay, in a university and others, sometimes we say, if you want to take a course A, what are the prerequisites for that, right? So it is like that. Okay, so the person should be ready to take that. Okay. Second thing is that who is writing the book? So now first is who is reading, who is writing. So for our case, who is teaching? So that means the person who is writing the book or teaching, they should be well qualified in terms of giving that particular kind of training to the people who have come prepared, right? So if I am not confident in teaching or something, then I don't belong to this particular job. I may be good in somewhere else, but this is where, because when the students they come prepared, there are certain expectations that we should be living up to, to their expectations and give them what they deserve. Okay. Then the third aspect, which are like a content. What are the contents of this book? Because see, when you teach a subject X, that subject has been, the syllabus, the curriculum, everything has been done with a specific purpose. Okay, because if it is a civil engineering, if it is like how to construct a bridge, okay, there are certain techniques. Okay, so you will have the kind of content that has to be told a priori. So in a normal classroom, when you go, it is like in IIT system here, at least we try to explain our professors. Then the first day of your lecture, you should tell the students that these are the topics that you're going to cover, right? Because, then they know whether these are the things you need or not. So because then otherwise the student will not enroll for that and wait till the end of it to realize that this is not what he wanted, right? So this is something, it happens. Sometimes we pick up a books, okay, and then at the end of it, I find that there is no learning experience. So this is also something that should not happen for a student, right? And the fourth one is very interesting, okay? So it says, what is the benefit of that? Okay, so when you actually go through this, then so if I study a particular subject, okay, what are the benefits? So benefit doesn't mean that, always like, so I'll make a lot of money or others. Benefit in terms of your knowledge acquisition system. Okay. So what do I learn? And if this I learn, how does it translate? Now, engineering discipline, this is very important because these are all application oriented, right? So if I study something, so normally what happens, engineering means it's a science got developed and you are now applying it to certain kind of things that makes our life better. Now, if that's the case, then is this particular course is beneficial to us in some sense? If it is not, then probably not too many people would come. And for example, of course, you could see that sometimes the benefits, it could be apparent or it could be real. Like, for example, all over the world, particularly in the engineering and sciences, if you say I am working on machine learning or artificial intelligence. So suddenly you will find everybody is running after that. Okay. So because probably there is an understanding that I stand to gain in terms of this getting absorbed into the industry quickly, or maybe for a student or somebody, I may have a better job perspective. So whatever it is, but that's the benefit. If I study something, this is what happens. So these are the Anubandha Chatushtaya. Okay, so 4 of them, 4 pillars. And then this is no matter, this is very fundamental to the any learning system. So your learning system gets based on only that part, right? Now the question is that once you know the philosophy of these 4, okay, you put the brick and mortar into the system and come up with your particular curriculum, right? So it could be engineering. If you are talking about engineering, it could be electrical, it could be computer, it could be civil, whatever the discipline that you are studying. Okay, all of them have to have that kind of a particular makeup. Now, at this point, we are talking about NEP. Now see what happens, how is NEP related to that one? Okay. Now, look at the evolution of educational system in India. Okay. Now, it's India, thankfully, because of all our, so I would call the ancient culture and our love for education and knowledge. It is one of the oldest system of learning anywhere in the world. We are the one which we invented those days, the concept of learning through, initially was a Gurukul, and then you move to the next level as a university. Okay, so first, let's say it is like a Takshila and other university that we have. Okay, later on is a Nalanda University. So this is much way the concept much before what you have in Europe when you started, like Padua University or something that started. That is only after the like the 11th or 12th century. Okay, whereas we are talking about 3rd or 4th century, or even Nalanda would be around 8th, 9th, 10th century. Now the question is, why, you have to look at why did it evolve? If you go back in most of the Indian scriptures and others, you started with this concept of Gurukul. Okay, from there we moved to some different. Now this is what today's term, when you talk about let's say supposing you are an investment person. Okay, what you do is that I can simply put my money I have a bank account in some bank X. I keep on putting money, put it in a fixed deposit or whatever it is, like in one particular way. So in the earlier days, and I don't know anything else. On the other hand, I mean, you could say that, okay, instead of putting in X, maybe I put it in Y, that may be better, or maybe more interest, or maybe it's safer. Those could be, of course, an issue. So earlier days, some students those days, those who wanted to learn, they were scouting for a good guru. So they would try to ask somebody like which one to go for, and then they latch on, they stay with them and study. Now, later on, you find that staying with one guru, as the knowledge evolves, is not always, enough. Those days, maybe it was more as a philosophy and, that kind of thing. But even if you look at some of them, like, for example, I can give you an example like Shetakadu, okay, who is Arun, that kid. So they went to one particular guru, came back, thought that all the knowledge was learned, whatever to be learned has been learned. Then his father asked, did you know all these things? He said, no. Okay. So then that means you have to go for another one. Now, what is that? That means one bank is not enough. One investment policy is not good enough for you. Okay. For your benefit, what you do, you can do something like a mutual fund. Okay. So you simply say that, look, I give money to certain group of people who know the complete way, the details of how to make the best of my money. I need not worry about that. So they will use, so it's a multiple portfolio manager, they would do it. And hopefully they will give you a better return, right? Similarly, then if you can put all these gurus together in one place, and let's say in the first hour, I go to Guru 1, second one, I go to Guru 2, and then the third one at a Guru 3, like this, then that's what is a college or a school or a university, because now you have multiple of them, and somebody is a math teacher, somebody could be a physics teacher, and that's how it evolved. It's as simple as that. Okay. And this continued, okay, for a long time. And finally, when it moved to Europe during the Renaissance and other, of course, what has happened is that it got a lot more modified to fit into what the university system is today. Now, let's look at what is happening at that time. So Europe, at the Renaissance and others, started developing very well, okay, because of the universities all over the Europe. There are a lot of universities that started, and education becomes, like initially there also, it was for the elite, but later on, it spread out, okay. On the other hand, what happened was that India somehow that time did not progress as much it was doing much before, okay. So education took a bit of beating, in my opinion, but what happened was that there were tolls and madrasas and others where, of course, there were teaching going on, but there was like a way to move it to that particular direction. After Nalanda, it did not materialize so much in terms of like a proper university system. So when the British came in, and they needed people who are to do their clerical work, they needed a lot of people who would know certain things, okay, so that they can do things. And then it was actually a set of, the preachers who came in, like particularly Charles Grant and William Wilberforce, in writing like in 1913 or so, okay, 1813, sorry. They started saying there is a need for a kind of a mass education system where more people would join. And then they brought in the first time the concept of Western education, okay. So this was like the first entry of that, okay. And of course, that had support from those lot of people those days in India. This was like particularly people like Raja Ram Mohan Roy and others. They tried to see that there's value. By the way, Raja Ram Mohan Roy knew so many other languages, everything, okay, including, but at the same time realized there's English that time had a value, okay. So people should be taught, okay. Languages become secondary. So when this was happening, at the same time, this was pretty much under the British rule. By the way, it was more of under East India Company and not so much under the Queen's India. Okay, so that happened in 1857. So if you look at that point, it was a company which was running India, and they needed a lot of manpower. And today, when we talk about, like, let's say Infosys or somebody, they're running their own training school, right, for their own people, and now it's nothing new, okay. So this is the same thing that happened, which those people, they wanted, the East India Company wanted that, okay. So they wanted a kind of a training for our people so that they would be worthy of their job. Right. So same thing like now, many of them, they have their own, big companies, they have their own training, academies and others. They fill it up through all these hiring. So when that was happening, then this Lord Macaulay, you might have heard his name. So he brought in this concept, and of course he used a very derogatory kind of a word, saying that Indian knowledge system is not, big enough. It's supposed to be fit into a half your shelf or something like this. But the fact is, he tried to say that there is a need for education. So you have to, let's not worry about what bad thing he said, but what he said is that the education is required. Okay, so that was around 1835. And by the time, okay, unfortunately, Raja Ram Mohan Roy, and he expired, okay, because he did not live that long, okay, in that sense. But thankfully, there were a lot of other people by that time who grew up with the Renaissance in that time, and they supported that, yes, we need school, okay, and this continued this development until happened is around 1854, okay, when we had something called Wood's Dispatch, okay. Now, if you look at Wood's Dispatch, it's a very, very nice, kind of thing that happened, and probably the first time in that India. They said that education becomes the responsibility of the state. Okay. See, earlier what happens, even everywhere, if I want to get educated, I find somewhere there, I go to a guru or whatever, I pay some tuition fee those days in whatever the meaning is. But it was my responsibility. It was done all like today, what we call a private industry. Okay. But this becomes like the responsibility of the state. Second thing, now we talk about the NEP 2020 and say that the importance of vernacular language. Now, it says that primary education should be in vernacular because we want more people to be onboarded into the educational platform. Okay, so vernacular thing was brought in, and then it was like when you go for high school, then basically they did not want you to go for a very higher level, what you call the higher education. So by the time they're in a little bit of high school, I think that time it become Anglo vernacular. So that means both English as well as the vernacular. Okay, because they needed certain kind of English that time to get their job done. Okay, so as this evolved, then also it says that anything like an university kind of thing, if you plan to do it, college, that's right, okay, it should be in English. That's how it started, okay, because it's like higher education, because those days, India needed some people to even start the process. And then, if you remember, I'm talking about 1854, and remember what happened in 1857, okay? So this is when all these three major universities in India got established. Okay, so which is like Calcutta University, Mumbai University, and Madras University. Those days names were different. Nowadays, all three have, I think, changed names, but that's how it started. Okay, and then what happened? So the university concept grew, and they were again, attracting, I think, very few people were coming to them. Okay, then it continued for some time, but also another thing they did that time was that who would be teaching? So you need a teacher training. And thankfully, if you see that NEP 2020, that also puts a lot of emphasis on the teacher training. Okay. And to deviate from what I'm talking, normally in a school and others for teaching, we tell that people should have some B.Ed or D.Ed, some kind of a degree, like a education degree for getting into teaching profession. But in engineering and other profession, we don't use that thing anymore. But sometimes that's why some of them do a good job and sometimes they don't do that much of a good job, because the concept of education, how to impart education, sometimes could be a lacking. Okay, so you should have some kind of either mentorship or traineeship for some of the faculty members, so that you know what are the difficulties of the students, how to actually impart your educational delivery. Now, at this point, so coming back to the evolution, let's go to something which is around 1880. So I think 82 or 3, then we had a Hunter Commission. Okay. So what they did is that they said that, look, education is becoming highly centralized because you have a university, then it's like big cities and others, and it doesn't percolate down to all the levels. Okay. So you need to decentralize. Otherwise, India is a big country. And by the way, this time it's no longer a company-run business. It is now under the Queen, British, because by the time after the Sipa mutiny, it is taken over by the British Empire. Okay, so they said that you have to decentralize the educational administration. Take it to the municipality level, go to that level, because it's a huge country. There's so many people, and those days it was mostly rural. Remember that. Now we have a lot more urban places. Okay. So it has to go to that level. So it pushed it. And this is the time we say that give them like this. And if you see that this has been now highlighted in a very nice way in NEP 2020, saying that like colleges and others, university, then you should have all these colleges, they should have their autonomy, right? That's what we now talk about at the higher level, right? Now, go further, and let's say around 1917 or 18, okay? This is when we had another very nice, interesting thing, okay, which is mostly at the higher level, particularly at the university level. is called, Sadler Commission. And what it said is that it's the universities that you see there, by the time you had these 3 universities and few other universities have started coming up. Okay. And around the same time, I think the Mysore University, so, it was set up as probably the first private university in India that time. Okay. So it was coming up. So of course, at the same time, we had few others, as like a Jadavpur University was not a university that time. Jadavpur was set up as a part of certain group of people who were against the British. So it was more of that way. So it was a technical training, okay, which became university much later. But it was established in, I think, 1905, okay, during the partition of Bengal movement. But if you look at Sadler Commission, so it talked about university education, and they wanted to have like a rapid growth with a lot more colleges and others. So what they did is, and here some of the people who contributed, and one of you probably the name, who is probably one of the most famous vice chancellor of all time in India, in my opinion, would be Sir Asutosh Mukhopadhyay. Okay, so he was there that time also as part of this kind of thing, and then the university system started growing. And it had started having a lot of these colleges all around. Okay. Now the interesting thing happened, even though, so it had actually a bad thing which happened later on, because if you keep growing up, and then today you look at some of these universities, which is like, let's say Pune University, for example, today. Okay, it had like 7 lakh students, something like that. Okay. So many affiliated colleges. So it was like an affiliation, and university becomes mostly like a chappa, like you have to grant the degree. Okay. Now that's not a very good thing. So if you look at the, the model, which actually got those days from European structure like Oxford and others. So they had certain colleges, okay, whether it's a Trinity College, King's College and others, few of them, but they were not too many of them. Okay. There were, of course, few colleges, they were affiliated to the university, okay, but they had some kind of independent structure, but they never were like too many of them. So what happened is that this is mostly like a way to run the exam process, and then it went into like some expanding in such a way it became unmanageable. Okay, of course there was a need those days because you wanted to make sure that the quality of education is good. That was how it actually came forward, but we never went into rectifying it. And this NEP 2020, now if you look at it, it says that yes, we need to realize this problem, okay, and we need to now put it down, okay, in the sense that give them the autonomy, make them separate like another university. But why forget? Some of them, they have done it. Some of the universities have been split into multiple universities by defining their zone and others. It has happened. Okay. Now, this thing happened, then gradually, if you look at the engineering education, then, by the time, if you look at it, we had very few engineering colleges and others, right, that time. And mostly, I would say, few of them in 4 corners, if I may say, let's say, one was Roorkee, okay, that time, okay, Thompson College. Then you have in Madras, okay, the Gindi. You go to the east in Calcutta, then you have this B college those days, okay. And if you look at the western side, then we had this Pune College, okay. So these are some of them, the older one, but there was very few, not too many of them, okay. So, but at the same time, I think I read somewhere that around 57, around 1857 or so, they had Senate meetings and others. They said that we need somebody even in that Senate in Calcutta University, there was a participation from faculty members of B college there, okay, so that they are represented, okay. Then what happened was that it was realized at the time of independence that there is a need for a lot of development for the country. It has not gotten into that, and you need a lot of things to be done, okay. And then before the independence, a committee was thought about, okay, that they should actually come up and do something, so a proper planning. And then they had Sarkar committee was formed, Okay. And Sarkar committee report, which was actually never been a complete report, it was actually an interim report, was submitted to the government, and it is what gave birth to all the IITs. Okay, because it is like a blueprint of IITs, and that's how it happened, saying that we need to expand education. So you have to have the expand, like, you can think of the higher education is also like it's a pyramidal educational system is like a pyramidal system. So you have a large base which is at the lower level. So of course, if you look at the gross enrollment ratio, as you go up, it comes down, right? So that's why it's like a pyramid. And you need to generate a large number of engineers. Let's say we are talking about engineering education. Then some of them, once so these IITs, then the NITs, and many of them were started. Then also there were like other universities were told to start colleges. Okay, so this happened, and then after some time, you realize that IITs, maybe the first 30 years of IITs and others, and even NITs also, you realize that you have put in a good system in place in terms of providing quality education to the undergraduates. There are these people, they go to different places, then you start another school, and that's how it happens. Anyway, lateral, spreading of education. Then what happened was that next, so this would be, I would call like IIT 1.0, okay, or NIT 1.0. Then you go to next 30 years or so, you know that now I have enough undergraduate and others. Let's go to the next level of the pyramid, which is the master's and PhD. So you put in a lot of this emphasis on research and other aspects, which happened over the next 30, 40 years. Okay. And this is what I would call like, let's say IIT 2.0 or NIT 2.0 in general. As a technical education, I would say is a 2.0 because that's where it is happening. Okay. Now, having done that, you have to go for the third round, 3.0. I think this is where I think this is time gradually we're moving. So when you do this education, you have to look at this engineering education. Okay, this is supposed to get us into a kind of mode where we can have more technology coming up, and they should get absorbed into the corresponding the industrial ecosystem of the country. They should boost it, and also it should make the lives of the common people better. Okay, that's basically the whole thing, that all our students and others, when they go to the workforce, that's what they do. You create jobs, you create facilities, you create, like whatever, I mean, the transport system, everything, so that the people benefit from that. That's basically the whole idea. Now, if you look at that way, so that means we need to now connect more with the society. So the next set of things, if you look at the new, many of these US and other universities, particularly if you look at, like, let's say, for example, MIT, if you look at, okay, I think they do a wonderful job in even solving some of the so many societal problems. Okay. And the societal problems, sometimes, we say, oh, this looks like a rural problem or something, but they could be one of the most innovative and, the challenging problems. It may be sometimes easier to solve a rocket problem rather than solving some, it's what solving some of the people, like in a village where there's a water problem, or if the water is not pure, how to provide them good, this thing, okay, all the food, how to save them for longer, because these are very much relevant to our people. Okay. So these are all important. Of course, we need rocket also, but at the same time, our people have to be properly uplifted, right? So that's where the industry connect comes in. So you need to do blue sky research, because that's what tells you what should be future of tomorrow. At the same time, you need to connect. Now, if you look at this, now go back to after independence, what happened? Okay, how much time do I have, Professor Bandyopadhyay?
Yeah, so as much as you can take.
Okay, so I'll see that. Let's see. Okay, then we can have some question and answer.
Yeah.
Now,
obviously.
Then what happened after the independence? Okay, so we had something called Kothari Commission. Okay, which was something like 1960s. Okay, early 60s. Okay, mid 60s, and then the first NEP was done something like 1968. Okay, then we had see, policies are major thing and it takes time to see the effect. So it's not that every day you have a different policy. So policy actually has a longer lifetime. Okay. Then the next policy that happened, the second one, is around 1986. Okay, that's the second NEP. Okay, that's what it happened. And what we have today is the third NEP. So there's been a pretty long gap. So almost like 36 years. Okay. But in between, there is another thing happened. Okay, which is not as a policy, but there is this, this committee. I forget, the former this 84. Which is our the former head of our CSI DG. Okay, there's a committee that talked about higher level of engineering education. See, this gave a big boost in terms of what should be the master's, MTech, and PhD degrees at different places. So the PhD, like for example, in many cases, the PhD students nowadays, they get stipend. Of course, PhD, we get almost many of them, they get stipend. So what would be the possibility and others? So that kind of thing was actually given. Okay. Now, then comes this particular NEP 2020. Okay. Now look at, so I gave you like a complete, like, starting from zero to where we are today. Okay. That it took me time, but now I created a base. Okay. And we are talking about the education, right? First of all, education is a process which is a continuous process. You cannot skip the lower levels of the pyramid and go to the higher level. He says, no, I don't want to go to the primary school and I'll just directly, join as a secondary school or something. So of course, few people earlier, they did that. Okay, I'm told. Okay. And, but the thing is, you need to get trained. Okay. And each one you build, see, education is one, you build one on the top of others. So you do something gradually, you keep going up. Now, at this point, now, when you do this education, so I cannot say that when I talk about education, that I need to concentrate only on the higher education. Okay. I need to start the homework at the school level. Okay. Because unless you have to look for everything has a catchment area. Where do your college students come from? They are graduating from schools, right? They're coming from various schools all over India. So I need to have a proper kind of training, okay, and the educational delivery at the schools. So the current NEP has provided that kind of opportunity because it's been there, but somehow the quality of school teaching and others, we have been all telling, okay, is that it needs improvement. So this is more wholesome. And also they said that so far, it's more of many places in India, what happened, it becomes rote learning rather than learning to learn something, right? So sometimes you get this WhatsApp joke and others, and sometimes they say that, oh, you don't, if somebody is poor, don't give him a fish, but you train him how to catch fish, right? That's what is the reason for that, because by giving him a fish for today, I am solving his today's problem, or maybe to, just like till tomorrow. But I want to solve the problem for much longer time. The person should be independent. He should be able to live on its own. So learning to learn is more important than what you learn today. Okay, so that capacity that I can go ahead. And remember, the civilization is such that you can always push the limits of your knowledge, be it technology, be it anything else, be it mathematics, wherever it is. You are always pushing. And that's how we progress. The society, civilization, it progresses like that. Okay. So if you have to have a good higher education, you have to have an even better, excellent, your school education. Without that, everything else, you are building a kind of, what I would say like some palace in thin air. Otherwise, just it'll collapse like a deck of cards. So that's why this NEP 2020, first of that says that get rid of this rote learning, try to do it. And India is a very diverse country. It has a lot of this, language, the rural-urban divide, digital, non-digital divide, so many other things, right, is there. So bring in that kind of thing. So one of them is a language also. Sometimes it's easier for us to think in my mother tongue, okay, rather than if you do it in English, okay. Of course, now we're talking to English in English because otherwise many of the people we cannot talk in the same language. So you need a common language. You need some language to understand each other. But your content, what I understand, my learning doesn't depend on the language. Okay, so so my expression, okay, the medium through which I learn could be, then the language comes in. I must understand that language. So so vernacular language, all of them are important at that level. Now you come to the next level, okay. So when you come to the engineering and other discipline, okay, so you want to learn, we India, as a matter of fact, and many other places, we want more people to get into higher education. And the question we ask is that particularly in engineering, and I read somewhere in US, when they go for higher studies, particularly even engineering as an undergraduate, the question is being asked that, and I tell you the reason first, okay? Then I'll say what is the question. In order to study engineering, in most engineering colleges in US, your tuition fee ranges something like $40,000 to $50,000, okay, per year, okay? Now that's a lot of money, okay? In India, thankfully, it's much cheaper. And maybe that's why probably we don't understand the value of money, because it comes cheap, okay? But over there, after this education is done, you go to a job, okay? The question is that, does the job require the skill set that you have been prepared for and the money you have invested in getting this one? Because many of the job, if they're more routine than others, maybe after 12th year, then if you take 1 or 2 year kind of a training, maybe it would have been good enough, okay? And that would have saved a lot of money for many people, because many people become poorer by going into that, and then you don't get the job. So as a country, they're spending a huge amount of money to actually train the people, which may not be required at all, okay? Because your job doesn't require that you get that skill. Of course, as an individual, I may be interested. If I love learning, I want to do it, that's a different thing, okay? But my job may not need that. So you have to have an optimal kind of a selection process by which you say that this is what I want to do, okay? So that, this is like a collective responsibility. Now, NEP 2020, it has actually captured that by way of saying the two things. One is that many of the jobs, you don't have to have engineering degree. Maybe, some of them you can actually do some kind of a vocational training. In Germany, sometimes they are called Berufsschule, okay? Some other places is a vocational training. So in India, what happens, the vocational training somehow did not get much attention. And if the current NEP is properly implemented, it puts in a lot of emphasis. And for example, in Germany, 82% of the people who are in the workforce, they have gone into this kind of vocational training. In similarly, I think similar number in Korea, but I think in US and others it's 50 or so, but India is very few, okay? So that's a way, because finally, what do I need for a normal living? For many people, you need a good job, so you need a good life, so that may be good enough. Now, again, for some people, they are seekers of knowledge. Not everybody needs to be a seeker of knowledge, because you have to understand and you have to bring it in also, okay? So if that happens, then you take that and you can continue. So NEP 2020 says that this kind of thing, you can have exits at different level. Now you see that there are, might have read this one, that there are exits. So can I exit after 1 year or 2 years or 3 years? Okay. Now this sounds good. And it's perfectly fine, but then you are not giving degree probably, but you may give certain kind of diploma or other, so that AICTE or somebody else has to pick it up to see what should be given. But at the same time, it's not just the AICTE and others, but who are going to accept that? So the industry, even including the government jobs, they should then, when somebody leaves at the first year and second year level of your higher studies, then there should be a career path for them so that they can get a job. So that means as we exit, at the exit level, there should be a provision for getting an opportunity to ask for a good job. Okay. So that's what NEP provides. But then the implementation is also required from the industry as well as the other setting, that this should be now, there has to be a mechanism. Next thing that you like, you keep going, right? You can do your master's if you want, you can do PhD, all of them, okay? But at the same time, you will hear there is another thing. It's called multidisciplinarity, okay? If you look at NEP 2020, okay, it is now, the word multidisciplinary university and others, this has been used, I think, more than 70 times, okay? It's a small document. So which emphasizes that today, if I am only, let's say, study on particular subject, which may be good, I may be very good in that. But when I do something, the one person doesn't make a bridge. Okay, you need more. So actually what happens is that supposing tomorrow's you want, let's say, certain kind of medical breakthrough, some surgical methods and others, you need doctors, you need biologists, you need engineers, you need some physicists to come up with a solution, right? So I should know more such kind of, I should have an exposure to such areas, and as well as I should have an appreciation for them. See, I cannot be master of all the areas, okay? It's impossible, okay? But I can have an exposure to that. And the whole idea of learning, many times, is that, as I said, that if it is learning to learn, and if I know what is to learn, I can invest myself and learn later on during my career path. So if I have that appreciation, and I know that I need to handhold a physicist to solve a specific problem, I'll find one, and together we sit down and try to solve the problem, right? So this is something that we need to actually, the NEP 2020 enforces, or rather they envision that this is going to happen, okay, in the next level. So that would be very useful, okay, if that happens, because now many problems that we solve, it's no longer just designing a light bulb. Even light bulb designing needs a lot of other technique rather than simply saying that how to do glass, and the other thing, how to make it efficient. There'll be a lot of, any technology that you do, it needs several things, okay? So how to do that, okay? So this is another aspect which would be useful, okay? And many of these universities and others, okay, they have done it. Of course, if you look at in US and many of the European, they're like, and that's why the term university means almost the entire, the universe of whatever the knowledge is there in the university, okay? But if you look at your NITs-IIC-Future or IIT Bombay or any other thing, in India, we are earmarked most for a technical education and science, maybe STEM education to be broad enough, okay? We are not like a full-fledged university, okay? And it so happened, I tell you, that the research and others, which was there very much earlier, it somehow got shifted out of this. And then what happened is that currently, most of the places where they have made a good name and the reputation, they happen to be more of very specific type of, like a niche area, whether it's a national law schools, okay, or is it like IITs or IIMs or ICERs or NITs, that kind of thing, IAMs. But can you have a university? The glory of those kind of things, like a Calcutta University, Dhaka University, they had like Mumbai University, Allahabad University. They were all like at a glorious time they had, okay? So would be very good. It may come back, and that would be more wholesome rather than being like a monodisciplinary plenary area. But the last thing that that I want to talk, and before I end, so that more that I have been speaking for about an hour now, I would say that there is another aspect in the whole educational system, okay, and that is the credit bank concept. So what you see is that, as I said, that the university evolution, if you look at it from a single portfolio to multiple portfolio, we go to different people and learn, okay. Now, what about you go one level higher, okay, expand the thinking to a next level, okay. Supposing I say that, look, I know in IIT Bombay, this course is very good, okay, whereas the other course, instead of it IIT Bombay, maybe NITS-IIC-Future gives a better opportunity that is better, okay. So can I take some course from IIT Bombay, some course from NITS-IIC-Future, some course from maybe AIMS, maybe some course from somewhere in Kerala University, and then can I create my own bouquet of this thing? So each one gives me a credit. I keep on collecting credits, and once I have enough credits, then can I get a degree? Okay, why not? So I think this is the concept of what is called a credit bank, okay, which is also there in NEP 2020, okay. But the thing is, what we need is how to implement that, okay. There has to be, if you take one course from here and two courses from Silchar, three courses from, let's say, courses from Kerala, that who will give you the degree? There has to be a degree granting place which say, oh, you have this, you have this, you have this. Okay, just fill up a form. I'll give you a degree certificate. Now you qualify. Okay, so that mechanism has to be established. Okay, so if that happens, then the kind of thing. So, but that's also a good aspect. So before I end now, I add another aspect, because which is the money. Okay, everything that we do costs money. Okay, and some people think that education is very cheap. Okay, why not just come here and just go there? Okay, and unfortunately, it's not so. Even if you go to we started with a Gurukul. Okay, imagine that as maybe you are a 10-year or a 12-year kid, you go to a guru, and what were you doing? Okay, of course, your guru was feeding you also. Okay, Guru Ma, they are all you are part of the family. Okay, but you are cultivating their lands, you are doing their, the milking the cows, you are collecting all other things for them. So if you look at how much the labor that you put in, and how much the labor, let's say we put in today to pay for this thing, you'll say this is today's peanut compared to what they did those days, right? So it may be more of a barter system rather than your physical transaction of money. It was expensive, okay? And when we go today, it costs money, okay? Let's say, for example, if you look at the IIT system today, it cost for IIT Bombay, we are something like, I would say, around 1,000 crores per year, and we have little over around, like, let's say 11,000 students, so that means per student our cost, of course I'm talking about BTech, MTech, all of them all together is under the same bucket. They may not have this all of them same requirement. It's around 9 lakhs per I would say student per year. Okay, and how much money we generate from the student tuition fee? Okay, almost nothing. Okay, so on the other hand, if you look at the NEP, it says we must be spending something like 6% of our GDP. Now 6% of our GDP, how much it is? It's roughly, I think if you look at, it's something like $3 trillion roughly. I would say that's our economy, maybe might have shrunk a little bit because of the pandemic. Okay, but still it's a substantial amount, and if you divide by the total number of active students that we have, okay, maybe around 25 crores or something, okay, of students. So I'm again saying that it costs the same whether you are a PhD student or your primary school teacher, okay, which is not correct always. On average, it comes to something like 6 lakhs rupees, okay, per student per year. That is what the NEP suggests that we should be spending. Okay. Where the money doesn't mean that it has to be always from the government sources. Okay. But overall, the GDP per, if you look at 6% of the GDP to be spent on that kind of thing. Okay. That's what it amounts to. Now, are we spending that much of money? So let's say if you look at 6 lakhs that way, and if you see that lower level you will not need, so in that case, there would be enough for us. Okay. But which is not there, because see what happens right now, it's only, much lower. So what we have to look at that, so we have to understand, okay, that it costs money, and there has to be a mechanism of payment. Okay. We agree that nobody should be, not have the, nobody has to say that, oh, I could not study because of I had money problem. Okay, I did not have money. All good people should have access to education, proper education, okay, like this. But not everybody comes with, let's say, family who can afford to pay. It is a problem in India. Definitely, there are a lot of people who are not well off in terms of being able to pay. Okay, it's not just because of the pandemic, even in the regular time. So what we have to do is that there has to be a mechanism in some sense, so that you give it to the students. Okay, so as they grow, okay, so let's say, for example, in Australia, okay, if you go for higher school, any higher education, any college, what they do, the college would give, and let's say supposing Mr. X wants to go to the college, he wants money. Then immediately the government, particularly, they would send that money to the college that you are joining, so that their fees also similar, 40,000, let's say, or 50,000 Australian dollar per year. Okay, the university gets the money, so that the university has the property. Okay, but why is government doing this? So he's investing on you. He's writing down all your PAN card number, your Aadhaar card number, equivalent, whatever. They will wait until you start earning. Okay, and once you start, because this also supposed to open up for you as a career opportunity. So once that happens, then you can actually get that particular, the government would say, oh, we have now paid, okay, you repay us back. Okay, over whatever, 10 years, 15 years period, we keep on collecting you slowly. So what happens? This money gets recycled. So similarly, what we did was, like, when this pandemic broke down, and many of our students did not have any laptop or anything, we just went out and requested all of our, many of the your alumnus that, can you give us some money? Okay, we have given this money to the students, and remember, it's not a gift, it's a loan. Okay, and we have told them that, look, once you are done, you don't have to pay anything. You don't have to pay us any interest also. Okay, you go out, get a job, please pay us back. If you don't get, don't worry. Okay, you don't have a job, don't have to pay. But if you do, you pay us. If you want to pay more, you're most welcome, because then this would be like a corpus for us, where tomorrow if something happens, somebody needs, and you need somebody, I can again give the loan to them. It's not like a free, gift money. Is that okay? So you have to have a mechanism in terms of to see that if the universities are struggling to keep pace with the financial requirements, then how would you be able to keep the kind of quality? You need building, you need good labs, all of them. So there has to be this is something is also required, and you have to understand that good education costs money. Like today we talk about nanotechnology. Nanotechnology, sounds like it's a nano, small, but in terms of expenditure, it's actually giga amount. It costs more money than anything else. Okay, so the question is, are we prepared? So this is the question we have to ask our own people, our own, the nation, as well as us, that are we ready to do that? Okay, because in India, sometimes we are averse to saying, oh, I take loan. Okay, but no, there has to be a mechanism so the nation, the economy also will support that. Okay, So then you will see that it's a sustainable process. Otherwise, it doesn't become sustainable, right? The government cannot keep on supporting. So they have to have a buffer amount, create that and keep putting it back. So I think that's another aspect, which is, how to do the implementation. There has to be something. So this is the part of the thinkers today who would actually go to the implementation. And of course, all as an administrator of various things, certain things we can do, so we should do that. And certain things probably you need at a collective level, so that also has to be done. So I'll stop here, okay? And if you have any question, I'll be happy to take it.
Yeah, so thank you, Professor Chaudhuri. So you started on two parallel paths, the broad spectrum of education, since you can say time zero, and then mapping that with NEP 2020 and its different different areas or facets. So it was nice listening to you. Now, let us say if there are some questions, Ari.
Yes, sir. I shall invite our participants to please raise your query to Professor Chaudhuri and other panelists as well.
Good evening, Professor. Can I put my question?
Sure,
Yes,
sure.
yes, please go ahead. Please introduce yourself and go ahead, sir.
I'm in Mechanical Engineering Department in NITS-IIC-Future. In 020, there is also a provision of the foreign entrance of the foreign universities like Oxford, Stanford. They can have a collaboration with us, and so that we can enhance our quality of education. So in that, what will be the future of that? I was just wondering for that.
Okay, let me put it like this. So who do you collaborate? I think you have to ask this question that, see, A and B, there are two entities and they would like to collaborate. So if I find, let's say, if I am a very good, let's say Oxford or Stanford professor coming in, and if you want to collaborate, then I have to be, I have to add a value to their research system or their ecosystem that they have done. Then only they will take us that, yes, this is worth going for collaboration. Okay. Otherwise, what happens? So this is like as a faculty level. So you do it only when you see that this is like a win-win situation from the both sides. Second thing is that the research and others in a university system gets done mostly by the graduate students because they are the workhorse, because this is also part of our job to train the next generation. Okay. So how do you bring in the education system, our students? So if you can provide good students, sometimes it may not be available in some places because their people are not going for it. So that's a possibility. Third thing could be that they want also money. Okay. Because if you look at the masters and other, many of these US and some of them, like Australia, for example, their second biggest money spinner is actually the master's education system. The first one is, of course, your what I call mineral and mining industry, which is very huge for them. It's about more than $20 billion, per year. That's much of tuition fee, with many of them from India and others are putting them. US is even more. Okay. So what happens, because they have this spare capacity, the masters now, they're getting many of our students, they go there and they pay this tuition fee. So are they coming here for the tuition fee collection, or are they coming for actual this thing? So that's where you have to realize, okay, there is a big market potential, okay, for them. So that's why, it says that, the education has to be a not-for-profit sector and others, there are some checks. But once you know, like, for example, our collaborations more time of like, we want to handle them, we add some value, they add some value, and we have put the students in the loop when they can go back and forth. That's, I think, when we should be very happy to see that. Is that okay?
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, can we have the next question from the participants?
People are tired. Okay, good.
Sir, as a host of this event, I have this a small query to you, because one of the sharpest criticism against this NEP has been that it would lead to the privatization of higher education. I mean, gradually phasing out the system of affiliation to a university. What is your opinion about that? Is it going to open the doors of privatization?
So what's wrong with privatization?
I mean,
see, let's look at the issue. Okay. So
Yes,
let's
sir.
not say whether it's a public or private. Okay. So, I mean, first you have to see what is good for the country. Okay. Now, if you look at today in US, I tell you, okay, the very best universities who are doing very well, okay, the top level, okay, except a few like UC Berkeley and some of the, others, few others, okay, most of them on the top level are all private in, so-called, we call them, private, your universities, okay. So MIT, look at that, right? So if you look at that kind of situation, so they don't get any money from the government in terms of tuition and other fees. They get in terms of research, of course. Okay, that's a competition. So the question is that what is the value proposition they are bringing in on table? That's what you have to look at. Are they just fleecing people in the name of education? Then of course this is wrong. Okay, are they providing very quality education at a reasonable cost? Then what's wrong with that? Our people are going abroad and spending a lot of money, and then basically we are losers, right? They are making a business out of us. So if we have some people, and they said like, and another, let's say, parallel kind of, it's a PIT, Private Institute of Technology, let's say, instead of IIT, okay? And if they do a very good job, of course, that's wonderful. We'll be the first to go and collaborate with them. Because that's how, so it's good to perhaps, like, India is a huge country. We need thousands of good universities, colleges, and others, so many good people, right?
Yes, sir.
So I don't see any problem as long as they are delivering goods.
Yes. Do we have any other participants? Any query to the panelists? Since we can't find any, I mean, most of the answers, most of the queries may be answered during this period. So that's why it is. Thank you so much, sir, for such an inspiring talk and wonderful explanation of the evaluation of this education policy with an innovative way, blended with your extreme oratorical ability. We also want to thank you for freezing some valuable time in your busy schedule and deliver such a brilliant talk. It was a treat to hear you, sir. We're looking forward.
Thank you.
We're looking forward, sir. And we.
Listen, thank you. It was a pleasure talking to all of you. Okay, wonderful. So stay safe, and all of you be happy. That's all. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, our distinguished speakers, Professor Subhashish Chaudhary, Director, IIT Bombay, Professor Rajiv Tripathi, Director, MNIT Allahabad, and Professor Anil Shah, Chairman NITS-IIC-Future, as well as our Honorable Director, Professor Shivaji Bandyopadhyay, for such a wonderful session and such a meaningful session. I shall end the event with a quote which I have thought in the morning when Einstein was saying to his students. He was saying, bear in mind that the wonderful things you learn in your school is the work of many generations. All this is put into your hands as your inheritance in order that you may receive it, honor it, add to it, and one day faithfully hand it on to your children. Thus do we mortals achieve immortality in the permanent things that we create in common. Today, what we have experienced in this short span of time is something that is important, and we must carry the legacy of this good knowledge, acquired or received, to the next seat so that the glory is preserved under the innovation of today. We know it is very difficult to decode the entire vision of NEP within this short period, but we know that little drop makes the mighty ocean. With this, we are concluding today the workshop on future on engineering education in the light of New Education Policy 2020, organized by Institute Innovation Council, NIT-IIC-Future, with our highest gratitude and acknowledgement to the distinguished speakers, our Honorable Director, President IIC NIT-IIC-Future, all the distinguished members of the faculty fraternity, members of the Institute Innovation Council, and all other participants. Please accept our season's greeting from NIT-IIC-Future, and we all wish you a very happy time ahead. Take care and stay very healthy. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Everybody.
Professor Tripathi. Thank you, Professor Shastri.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you, Tripathi, sir.
Yeah, very nice.
Professor Talukdar.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all. Okay, sir. Arif, sir.
Okay,
Concluding
sir.
the meeting.
Only thing left is that we should have gone for a formal
Vote of thanks.
vote of thanks.
Sir.
Thank you all. Thank you, sir.
Okay, fine.
Sir.
Arif.
Yes, sir.
এই
Yes,
তুমি
sir.
রাত্রে ফর্মটা রেখেছিলে?
হ্যাঁ স্যার,
তুমি ডাটাগুলো রাত্রে আমাকে দিয়ে দাও সেই ফর্মের।